Let's talk now to Dr. Tony Agbons, researcher and senior lecturer at the Anglia Ruskin University in the British capital, London. Good morning to you as always, Dr. Agbons. Thank you for your time this morning.
Yeah, good morning, Ladi.
Let's begin with this issue of this blogger and all the other side issues that are connected with it. Perhaps on a global scale, the Russians have assumed the presidency of the UN Security Council. And in that role, there are so many people who are scared, so to speak, that they would use the position, as the ambassador there was saying, to spread misinformation and propaganda. And he says that, nothing is going to change. This is something that is routine, is a matter of procedure. Next month, somebody else will be in charge of the UN Security Council. Is that a way to look at it?
Yeah. Thank you, Ladi. In fact, the ascendancy of Russia to the presidency of the UN Security Council has been described by so many diplomats and international relations experts as one of the biggest, sorry to use the word now, April Fool joke of the time. Many had hoped that due to the lingering crisis, from the, invasion of Ukraine by Russia, that Russia should not have been allowed to, assume this position, even though it's just for 1 month, but it has huge diplomatic, impact. So that argument is going on. Like you have said, it's just procedural. There's nothing that doesn't confer much powers on Russia, doesn't change anything. But it is a question of, people looking at it from the human angle, that a country that has, invaded another sovereign nation, assuming such an important organ of the United Nations. So that's the angle many people are looking at it from. But on the flip side, when you also look at it, it also puts a moral burden on Russia, because now they have assumed the presidency, and they will be chairing the Security Council matters for the next 1 month. So it puts a moral burden on them, and it will also prick their conscience to do the right thing as far as this Ukraine crisis is concerned. But something that the Russians are also saying is that when the Americans assumed the presidency of the UN Security Council, that was when they also invaded Iraq. So when you look at all these things in the global space, you see that, history has a way of invading, repeating itself. But the context of the invasion of Iraq by the Americans and the context of the invasion of Ukraine by Russians are very, very different.
Of course, the other side of this is that one of the things that had happened is that it appears to show the, shall we say, the arcaneness of the United Nations and its procedures. Because as you pointed out, this is routine. Every member of the Security Council will at one point in time be president of the council, and it doesn't confer any particular advantages or not on that country. But then beyond that, do you see a situation where this might push the agenda for reforming the United Nations? Because as you said, many people thought that Russia shouldn't be allowed to assume. But as the United States and the others said, look, there's no way within the rules of stopping this from happening. That is what the United Nations rules stipulate. So do you think this would ginger forward the call for reforms of the United Nations and its rules-based system in this kind of situation?
Definitely. In fact, when you look at the statutes of the United Nations as the organization was formed in 1945, following the Second World War, a lot of their rules and guidelines are just they are obsolete as we speak. So this is one major area. And there have been this serious argument in diplomatic space for, when it comes to these UN Security Council resolutions. People have said, why is it that just 5 nations in the world have that veto power? If you notice what happened in February last year when Russia attacked Ukraine, the Russians vetoed the UN Security Council. China abstained, India abstained, the United Arab Emirates, they also abstained. So people just look at it and said, there is no balance here. So I think the words, things like this bring, to the fore the need for urgent reform within the United Nations itself, especially when it comes to the Security Council. Because, to be honest, a lot of international relations experts see the UN as a bulldog. They just bark, but they don't bite.
But then, as you pointed out, those 5 countries you mentioned that are permanent members and who, hold this veto power, gained that power when they formed the United Nations in the immediate aftermath of the Second World War, which the 5 of them won. The United States, the UK, the then Soviet Union, China, and France. I mean, that's the basis on which they put this veto power for themselves within the UN system. But then there has been no agreement since that 1945 about how to go about reforming this arrangement. Every time there's an attempt, there's a push. I remember that when Africa's own Kofi Annan was Secretary General, he tried to push for an African country to, be given that, for Germany, for Japan, for a couple of other countries that had become, really important in the world order. But for you to change the system, you require the consent of these 5 people who put the veto in the first place, and they'll never give up that veto. So what are we to do then? Because if it's Russia this time, next time it will be the United States or France. I mean, all of them have used the veto power at one point.
Yeah, all of them have used it. And you see, like I was saying in my last speech, the fact that people don't know the nations don't know the impact of some of the decisions they take until it directly affects them. So, and that is why people have always said, when you look at organizations like the United Nations, these 5 permanent members have always used the UN Security Council to their advantage, like you rightly mentioned. So now, the United States in particular is particularly not happy that Russia have taken this presidency this month of April. They are really, really, not happy with it at all. And the same with most of the countries in the NATO alliance. So, but probably this punch in the face will make them have a rethink so that everybody will sit down and really change some of the laws and statutes of the UN as an organization. It is not just only even the Security Council. If you look at even the World Health Organization, if you look at the UNESCO side, other, statutory organs of the UN is so lopsided. And I hope that this particular Russia-Ukraine experience will cause the change that most international relations experts have been desiring for a long time.
I can't let you go, Dr. Agbonza, without asking you about something happening within the UK itself at the moment. And this is a fallout directly of the conflict in Ukraine, the economic impact this time of that, and that's talking about the cost of living crisis. At this time, it's the teachers, who have taken, before now, you and I have discussed ambulance men, the border force, we've discussed nurses, we've discussed doctors, and so on. And today it is the teachers. What's the situation this morning? Is there anything you can tell us about the impact that this is having?
Yeah, thank you, Ladi. In fact, that's my sector, it's my constituency. I'm in education here in the UK. And the teachers they are flexing their muscles. Yesterday, the National Education Union had their conference, and about 191,000 teachers balloted, which represented a huge 66% turnout, and decided that they are going to go on strike because the offer, the pay package and condition of service that the government has, put forward, it was just, throwing a pebble into the ocean. So teachers are upset. So strikes have been slated for April the 27th and May the 2nd. In the weeks coming for teachers to strike. And it's not just the teachers, like The passport office staff, as I speak to you, they have embarked on a 5 weeks industrial action. Junior doctors are still threatening, airport workers are threatening, and civil servants are threatening. So the UK, in terms of industrial harmony, it is all zigzag at the moment. So, and the workers are not budging, and government is not ready, to, accede to their demands. And what makes the teachers strike in the UK so, complex is the fact that teachers in Wales and Scotland have been given some very good bumper offers, but those in England are the ones reeling. So they are like, why are we being discriminated against? Our colleagues in Wales and in Scotland, are they not in the same profession with us? So that is what the situation is at the moment. But we are still hoping that the Education Secretary, she will, bring forth better offers so that these strikes don't go ahead.
Now, of course, when you say that, I remember that the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, had pointed out that, look, we would love to offer more, but we simply cannot afford it. It's not possible for the government to afford it. The government is broke, and that, a lot of spending cuts are going to have to, be brought in order to stabilize the government's finances. How do you think that is playing out with all these people who are going on strike?
Yeah, it's not going well with those going on strike. The thing is, I think the government, the current government, is not very sincere in their dealings with the teachers. And as a researcher, we try to look at the figures and see how does this really work. Let me just, because people are watching and listening to this program now. The government has offered a £1,000 one-off payment, for this current school year, on top of an average of 5.4%, which will rise, which they gave already in September last year, and they are also adding a 4.5% rise next year. So when you break these figures down, Ladi, you find out that it doesn't match up with, even though the government is saying these figures are above the current inflation rate and all that, but it doesn't match up with the reality on the ground. So the teachers are asking for, very huge sums, and to be honest, they know that the government cannot really meet their need. But the government has not even gotten to half the midpoint of the table. That is where the argument is. So most of us, we think that the government should meet the teachers halfway, because we know that in negotiations, you can't get everything. You win some and you lose some. But the government is trying to embark on a PRO war and trying to get citizens to support them. But as I speak to you, a lot of the citizens are on the side of the teachers. So we know that the coming days ahead promises to be really exciting as far as negotiations are concerned.
Indeed, they do promise to be full of drama and controversy, as you point out. Dr. Abbas, thank you as always for your time on the program this morning.
Thank you, Ladi. Have a great day.
You too.